Hey everyone, welcome to Applaa.com and welcome to today's explainer. Today we're looking at something that causes, well, more than a few sleepless nights for students and parents alike. I'm talking about the 11+ exams.
If you're looking for clear, visually structured learning that just cuts right through the noise, you are definitely in the right place. Applaa.com is your ultimate destination for focused, dynamic learning. And today, we're going to use that exact focused approach to completely dismantle the 11+ exam.
All right, let's dive right in. Listen to this. The old key had been hidden in the garden for as long as anyone could remember. That is an actual opening line from a Model 11+ creative writing answer provided by Prep for All. Now, when you read sentences like that, complete with personification and this deep emotional resonance, the standard expected in the 11+ can feel, honestly, incredibly intimidating. But I want to reassure you right out of the gate, reaching this level of writing and reasoning is an entirely learnable skill. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be going over 1. Demystifying the 10+ exam. 2. Mastering English and vocabulary. 3. Cracking verbal reasoning. 4. Navigating nonverbal reasoning. And 5. Essential practice.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Demystifying the 11+ exam. You know, the biggest hurdle with this test is often just our mindset. We have this tendency to view the exam as a raw measure of innate genius. But the absolutely crucial point here is this. The 11+ is essentially just a series of learnable codes and predictable patterns. Whether you're looking at a GL assessment or a local authority test, the examiners are looking for very specific, structural techniques. And once you realize that you aren't fighting some unbeatable monster but rather just solving a puzzle, the entire preparation process shifts from being stressful to being strategic.
Moving right along, Section 2, Mastering English and Vocabulary.
So the real secret to acing creative writing isn't just sitting there waiting for inspiration to strike. It's about having a rock-solid foundation. Take a look at Prep for All's 3-minute, 5-step planning strategy for narrative writing. When a student is staring at a blank page, they should spend the first 3 minutes mapping out these 5 things: character, setting, problem, climax, and ending. For example, going back to that hidden key story, the character is Maya. The setting is an overgrown garden. The problem is a locked cellar door. The climax is finding a journal, and the ending connects right back to her own exam prep. It's a formula, and it basically guarantees a complete, satisfying narrative arc every single time.
But structure needs the right building blocks, right? And that means vocabulary. Adam Learning highlights that vocabulary is tested heavily across English and verbal reasoning, and they've actually curated a list of 300 words that every 11+ student should know. What's really interesting here is the caliber of these words. So instead of saying happy, we use exultant. Instead of quiet, it's taciturn. You'd use verdant instead of green and tempestuous instead of stormy. You literally don't need to swallow a dictionary, but mastering a curated handful of high-value descriptive words like these, it instantly elevates a student's writing and comprehension to that top tier.
All right, Section 3, Cracking Verbal Reasoning.
Now, if you have ever looked at a verbal reasoning paper, you know it can sometimes look like a completely foreign language. Check out this GL assessment-style code-breaking problem from TD Tutoring. It says, find the code for sale. You're usually given a few words, a few number codes, and then told to figure out which number represents which letter. It looks like total chaos at first glance, doesn't it?
But here is exactly how we crack it using the TD Tutoring method. The golden rule: you don't guess. You look for shared digits across the number codes first. If the number 6 appears in all 3 codes, you look at your 3 words for a letter that appears in all 3 of those words. If 2 words share a 3 at the beginning and the end, well, you just find the letter that starts one word and ends the other. It's this really beautiful process of elimination. You just match repeating numbers to repeating letters to build a master code, and suddenly, solving for a word like sale is just a simple matter of filling in the blanks.
And here is a real look at a GL assessment familiarization paper layout. I absolutely love showing this because it bridges the gap between theory and reality. This is exactly what the multiple choice format is going to look like on test day. Honestly, familiarizing yourself with this layout, just knowing how to quickly scan the options and mark the answer sheet correctly, is just as crucial as knowing the logic itself.
Okay, Section 4, Navigating Nonverbal Reasoning.
So, this is arguably the trickiest part for a lot of students, especially for those who just aren't naturally visual learners. And the undisputed champions of causing headaches in this section are spatial puzzles, specifically cube nets. As we define them here, these are spatial reasoning puzzles that require the visual translation of a flat 2D template into a folded 3D cube entirely in your mind. The examiner is literally testing a child's ability to mentally manipulate shapes in space. It is highly abstract, and just staring at a screen or a piece of paper usually just makes it way more confusing.
So how do we actually beat it? Well, we use this brilliant pro tip from TD Tutoring. When you're practicing at home, get off the screen. Actually draw these nets on a piece of physical paper, cut them out with scissors, and physically fold them into cubes. When a student can physically hold that cube, turn it around in their hands, and see exactly how the sides connect, they build a really strong intuitive spatial awareness, and that eventually allows them to do it purely in their imagination. You basically have to feel the solution to truly understand it.
And that brings us to Section 5, Essential Practice and Preparation. Having the toolkit is great, but knowing how to swing the hammer is what actually builds the house, right? We have to bring all these skills together. And that brings me to this very important number right here, 10. GL Assessment actually provides 10 hours of free familiarization materials. This is just an incredible resource. Look, passing the 11 Plus isn't just about getting the right answers, it's about getting the right answers quickly. Using these free materials to simulate real test conditions is how a student builds crucial exam speed and stamina, so they don't just burn out halfway through the actual paper.
And as you do this practice, pay really close attention to the mechanics of the test. Notice the essential question types from SAT's papers highlighted here, things like synonyms, hidden words, compound words, and letter sequences. These aren't random at all. They are specific, recurring categories. Routine practice of these exact question types is what trains the brain to recognize the pattern instantly, and that is going to save precious minutes during the exam.
So, there you have it. We've officially decoded the process, from mapping out creative writing in 5 simple steps, to upgrading vocabulary, to matching numbers and letters in verbal reasoning, and even physically folding cube nets. The 11 Plus is not some impossible, impenetrable wall. It's just a locked door, and you now know exactly how to forge the key. But I want to leave you with one final thought. Once a student learns how to decode these patterns and master this level of complex logic, what other seemingly impossible academic mountains can they conquer next? The skills you learn here go way, way beyond just a single test. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Start practicing, and I will see you next time.